Okay, it is 6:04, we're coming out of recess. Again, let's go back and follow the agenda. Committee report, facilities committee report, Mr. King is not here. Mr. Coffin, as a member of that committee, anything you'd like to add this time?
I don't have any news on the facilities committee.
There were some items that were added to the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone have any questions on anything regarding the facilities committee? Megan? Joe? No? Move on, finance committee report? Mr. Coffin?
Well, Jim has put together a plan for addressing accounting and finance. I don't know whether the rest of the board members have seen that plan. It may have been distributed, I think, with our meeting package a month ago. And this is what it looks like. It seems to me a very constructive plan of action to address some of the questions that we've had about timely posting of payables, meaningful and accurate accounts receivable plans, and so forth. The functioning of the accounting arm, which has raised questions, I really think is being addressed. I think the issues are being addressed. And some of the difficulties in getting things posted in a timely manner, when we run over the staffing issues, we all know about Jim's health. And when we run over the staffing issues, the additional staffing issues, they help explain why this has happened. It's not just a surprise. There was a staff person in the accounting department who left, and after working in another job for 4 weeks, decided to come back. But in the meantime, that left one of the 4 positions vacant for a month last fall. You know that Jim was out for a period under health issues. I hadn't been previously aware that a person with some accounting responsibilities at the port was out sick for a period, a month?
It was more like 90 days.
90 days.
It was a while.
And that person, in addition to accounting functions, was responsible for instance, I think weighing in and weighing out trucks. And so that position had to be covered, and it was covered with one of the people from the accounting department. So this department's been juggling with sometimes 2 people out and sometimes 1 person out. And perhaps there was an overlap. They had a time when 3 people were out. And things go awry. Then it was budget time and so forth. So I am comfortable with this. Jim is putting together a matrix of dates and schedules for verification, which is to say he's putting some plans that have dates and checkoffs on the actions that are on here. And I'm delighted, and I believe that we just need to see this work and stay on top of it. Plus the committee, I think that the finance committee needs to meet on a regular basis. We've scheduled the final Monday of every month to meet. And the only exception that came up was Memorial Day in May, so we've scheduled that, moved it to a Tuesday. But that'll mean that we have a meeting shortly prior to our regular board meetings. And we will have had a chance to look at the financial data that was processed during the prior few weeks. And so I think we need to go and just go forward.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Chris for grabbing a hold of this by the horns, and as someone who attended that finance committee meeting. It was pretty intense, and I think Chris is committed to making sure as we move forward, all of us have a better idea of financially where we are. Obviously, as a result of the motions that we tabled today, I think everyone should get the message that we're looking at everything a lot tighter than maybe has been done in the past. So, thank you, Chris. Anything else for Chris?
I would also agree with those comments regarding the finance committee. It's been very helpful.
Good. Good. Think so, Jim? Anything nasty you want to say to Chris? What?
No, I'm good.
That was your chance, huh? All right, finance reports?
Yes, you had, you received approximately a week ago, the financial statement highlights and the income statements and the balance sheet. We did a revised balance sheet that has a lot less data on it. Hopefully it's easier to read and clear for the fonts. On the income statements, I think in the winter time and the early spring, we struggled with our cash flows the most because the port is essentially shut down, other than salt trucks, maybe a couple fertilizer trucks coming in and out. Now in April of this year, that's supposed to pick up dramatically and very quickly, because we have as little as 2 or 3 ships coming in April, to as many as 4 or 5. And if we get a salt ship, 5 or 6. So they're gonna be stretched. But ships coming in are quite lucrative to us, so we'll keep an eye on that. Airport revenues increased in February. We did find what I guess I would call an internal control billing item that we didn't realize we could bill for, and that was part of the low-cost incentive policy that added to the February revenues, about $43,000. And then the general increase in traffic with the PFC charges, the parking charges, all expanded by quite a bit. And we've had a lot of success reducing expenses out at the airport over the course of the last year, specifically the Volo and the NICEART janitor service invoices have gone away. So we saved that $150,000, and now can look forward to SkyWest coming in and providing another bump in the revenue side. There will be some bumps on the expense side, and you've heard about the advertising. We'll see some more gas fuel charges coming in to fly the SkyWest planes. But the net should be easily $100,000, if not $150,000.
Has Allegiance ground handler paid their invoice?
No.
They have not.
How much is that?
What's that?
How much is that?
About $800, which covered several months, but it's not a huge bill. They've had that bill 30 days effective today. So that's what our general terms are, and the circumstances exist where this is a multiple month bill. And I don't think we've received any feedback. I know Kathy has followed up on the bill, sending out a reminder. I don't believe she's gotten any phone calls or any questions. So I will be looking for that money over the course of the next week, and then we'll take further action if warranted shortly thereafter.
Should it not show up by Friday, Stephanie, we're going to suspend security badges, issuing of new security badges until such time as it's paid.
Stephanie, have you had time, I know March was a busy month for you. Have you had enough time to look at maybe other areas at the airport we could be saving money?
We are looking, well, we did change the schedule in March, which going forward will save us money on overtime, as compared to what we've been doing in the past. That will be substantial. The other issue with that change is our general aviation traffic. It is picking up now that spring is coming. Our fueling, for especially Jet A, is quite lucrative. And with staff available for longer hours and 7 days a week, that comes up substantially. Our price of fuel has increased. We've increased the charge, or I've increased the charge based upon the 4 closest airports. We are still lower than all of the other 4 airports, but since we do have a great deal on fuel, we are substantially, the money is very good for our Jet A fuel. That was just raised, and as I said, we're seeing much, more GA traffic. Started this past mid-March, and it is really coming up. So I see savings as far as the scheduling goes. I see an increase in revenue with the Jet A fuel because we do have a good price, and the word has now gotten out that we have such a good price on fuel. Even though I've raised the price, it is still lower than everyone else. So I see the jet traffic still coming in.
Good. And of course, she's aware of all of our finances out there.
Sure, it's all the same report you guys got.
Excellent.
At the same time.
Maybe you're not so glad at that. No, I think it's important that you know what's going on out there financially because of that, which is why I asked you the question. You're there all the time. If anybody knows how to save money or how to increase revenue, it would be you. So by working with Jim and Wade, I think more of an interaction can only be good for us.
And Stephanie, if you could think about budgeting and planning, and have some input come next fall when we start planning the
Absolutely.
budget for the next year, that would be really good, because again, it's tough for, I think, somebody in an office here to be planning the budget.
Yes, I came at an odd time this past year, right in the middle of budget season, not
That's
knowing
right.
what you have and what was being done.
But still, to be honest and open, she had saved us a tremendous amount of money out there because of her knowledge
Mhm.
of winter flights in
That's
and
great.
out, and thank you for that.
Well, definitely kept us open when the alternative would not have been a good one.
Yes.
So,
A lot of other flights in the area were shut down, we were operating. That's credit to you and your staff out there.
Credit to the staff, they work very hard.
Yes, they are, very good.
That's why she wants the best staff out there.
That is exactly.
I know, but Steve's not here.
I was gonna say, where's Steve?
I saw his chairman, so I thought I'd give a little cut. Okay.
Steve's wondering why his ears are ringing in.
Yeah.
From training in Syracuse right now.
He's probably working for Stephanie out of here.
Okay, Jim, I'm sorry.
So, no, that's fine. Under the budget variances section on that highlights page, as Wade had mentioned earlier, that $185,000 runway extension grant was received. That predominantly is gonna be used to make the retirement plan payment, which is in your AP listing. So, outside of that, nothing really stuck out to me on the balance sheet for the month. We are getting, payment on some of those grant receivables coming in. Payables went down $500,000 because of some of those grant receivables, reimbursements coming in, so. Having said all that, we had a $39,000 cash flow profit for the month of February, and a year-to-date loss of $460,000. And slightly under $4 million of depreciation expense, which isn't factored in, so. Were there any questions on the specific financial statements? Assuming you've all had a chance to review them. And these numbers were all shared with the finance committee last week, so we've had a more detailed discussion at that committee meeting.
Jim, I actually have a question on the bridge, but it relates more to the bridge traffic and also to the finances. When I kind of marry up the data, look at the Ogdensburg Airport, I see in the month of February, which these financials look at here, there were 5,000 people that came through the airport, majority of which went through, probably came from Canada, and went through the bridge at least twice, if not 4 times, depending if they parked in the lot or didn't park in the lot. And this is a question I'll hold to the bridge traffic comparison report. I'd like to see what those numbers would be if we would back that airport out and compare against some of the other bridges, because the other bridges are down more significantly than we are, but that airport is bolstering us on the auto crossing side of things. Where it's down, it would be down significantly more without those Allegiant passengers. I guess more just of an observation.
But following that thought, the quicker we can put that information together, the quicker we need to get it to division of the budget, so that they realize how much of an effect that toll increase will be for us.
Yes, then the total increase, they have they have everything except for the sheet. I don't believe they have the sheet.
Okay. Because if you're, I haven't seen the numbers on the other crossings, but if we're a lot lower in decrease, I think you're absolutely right, and it's because of the airport. It just shows a connection between our airport and the bridge traffic. How one is works well with the other, and why we need both.
Absolutely. So there's a question in there somewhere, so we'll talk
Somewhere.
about one.
Megan's got another one. Okay, Jim?
Any other questions on the financial reports?
Good, Chris? Joe, you good?
Good.
Megan? Okay. Let's go to, solar farm credits?
Yeah, we were gonna bring a National Grid bill that shows a bunch of credits, and this afternoon I got the corresponding debit from the solar farm people, which took me by surprise, so we decided to table it until we know a little bit more. We're just starting to see the delivery credits.
I was gonna
Well, I mean, there's two things, as long as we're talking about it. There's a $9,000 credit that's being generated by the solar farm, and that's offset by a bill today for the electrons that we got for $13,000. So, that's,
So on Wednesday, I thought we were saving 20% of our National Grid bill every month. And on Thursday, I says, well, that's gonna cost more if that trend continues. So,
but a credit National Grid bill is a rare thing. That's why we're gonna bring it up.
Let's keep looking at that.
One other thing too is just recall why we originally did that with the solar farm as well. That satisfies the executive order 4 compliance. We have 100% green power in everything we use throughout the authority.
Even though it costs us more money.
Yes.
This meeting requirement. All right, any other questions on the solar farm credits? Move on to the bridge traffic report, please.
bridge traffic report showed a year-to-date, full year, fiscal year, drop of slightly over 3%, slightly less than 4% overall, and it's been trending in that direction compared to the prior year, with March itself being a little bit larger difference. I'm guessing it's the exchange rate.
I'm wondering whether I read correctly that report. It seemed to me as if last year was lower than the prior year, and this year is lower than last year.
Last year was somewhat, a little bit higher, 1 or 2% higher.
Then I missed some numbers then.
And then this year, it was higher early in the fiscal year, and then towards the winter time, when we expect the traffic to be somewhat lower, we've gone under last year's numbers. I think it was January when we first saw the total year-to-date numbers go negative. So we'll have to see whether that trend continues.
Well, I went up to a game in Ottawa, just so you know, I paid the toll.
I do my part.
So did we.
You can't beat mine, Anne Marie, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah.
If I owe you an apple pie now. Megan, you had a question on?
Just the 37% drop in all other crossings.
And which number?
The all other crossings for March. It was over a third,
Yeah, that
37%
was,
change.
that was a decline, and
That's trucks, and
Do
that's
we know
primarily
why?
trucks in there, and that's particularly concerning because one truck is worth the equivalent of 3 cars to us. And that is, that would be exchange driven as well.
Drastic compared to the rest of the year.
Hey,
we did.
and I didn't quite understand that either, because we're out of salt down on the port. So in order to fulfill the contracts, the salt companies were sending trucks across the bridge to pick it up from Johnstown, weren't they?
I don't know where they were going.
Or maybe they weren't going to Johnstown. Maybe they were going further north. But that's why, when I saw that surprised me too, because I assumed the trucks were coming back and forth loading with salt.
Are they crossing somewhere else?
No, the pile was right over here behind the grain elevator in Johnstown. Unless they're out too. I don't know, like 37% is quite a drop.
Especially when the rest of the month, the biggest drop was 10% back
Yeah.
over the summer. Doesn't
Why,
really,
I
it's
guess
a huge
it-
outlier.
Well, I was just pulling up the numbers for February, looking at trucks at other bridges. Jim, I'd like you to verify that number in the system, because the largest increase, or largest decrease, I'm sorry, for trucks was actually the Sault Ste. Marie Bridge. All other bridges are experiencing down 9%, 10%, in that range versus prior year for the same time. So let's check that data point, just make sure that's right.
I'll
Yeah.
certainly do that.
Thank you.
It may very well be, but
That was my only question.
It's always been such a.
Yeah, right.
I don't
Fingers
think-
crossed.
I don't think we've had any systemic problems, at least recently.
Right.
But that's a number that changed by quite a bit.
Well, it's like a whole, let's say a whole trucking firm that used to come across here, no longer does. That would worry me.
it's 1,400 trucks versus prior month,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah. So, if you look at that. Any other questions on the bridge traffic report? Move to the airport activity report, please.
you have the hard copy in front of you. Not much to say there, other than, we really appreciate the Canadian traffic. We had a great month. You can see both the cumulative graph and records were set. The throughput for the terminal for March, and knock on wood, barring any snow events or anything, it will exceed that in April. There's 22 flights scheduled. I anticipate that you'll see both of these charts move up by an order of magnitude, because when SkyWest gets in there rocking and rolling, that's a 50-passenger plane twice a day, 5 days a week, and once a day, 2 days a week. So those numbers will add up, provided there's the ridership there.
We had close to 7,000 passengers through the airport in March,
Yes,
that has to be some record.
that's, when you go back in our history, I can't find anything that is even close to that in our history.
Another nice job, guys, huh?
Yeah.
Close to 7,000 passengers in 1 month, that's.
I didn't buy all the tickets.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
They weren't all free. That's crazy, right?
And that represents 19 Allegiant flights in there.
Again, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the airport's been up and running almost every day. So, good. Any other questions? Any questions on the airport activity report? If not, we move to the port activity report.
Pinch hitting for Steve Lawrence, been a fair month at the port, a lot of gluten meals, been moving, gluten pellets, some cottonseed meal, a lot of trucks of animal feed, citrus pulp, and that type of thing for local companies. As mentioned previously, it's going to be a pretty busy month of April. The first of 3 wind shifts is scheduled in the April 7th to 8th timeframe, somewhere in there, give or take.
Monday.
There's wood pellets, should be the following week, and the following Monday. In addition, John, do you want to mention about Fort Drum coming over and taking a look?
Yep, there will be 4 or 5 people from Fort Drum here April 15th,
April 15th.
9 o'clock in the morning, starting at the port. And that was a general invitation that I had sent out to have discussions about our facilities and how they can be better utilized. And, yeah, it'll start at the port. They only have a couple hours, so spend a little time at the port and then go to the airport. And some of them are associated with Wheeler Sacks, so they presently do use the airport occasionally for training, so be a good event.
It'll be a good event, good discussion.
April 15th at 9, you said?
9 a.m. at the port, yes.
Should I shut it off? What happens when you got 12 kids in town?
They don't want you.
No, it's just each other. I'll make sure I get it in there, sorry. Got it. Thanks, man. You know, you see the Maxim that are still going down in Wayne, so I'm assuming they're still going across the drag soon.
Yes,
So
sir.
that hasn't slowed down, I mean. Yeah. And I wonder why. Hopefully it's just an error. You don't have any, as Wayne had said, report, it looks like next week there will be 1 ship in with windmill parts, and I believe some others are coming by rail.
Yes, you're gonna see activity pick up substantially. So, stay tuned, we don't have exact dates yet, but we'll send that out as soon as we do.
And I've seen ships going by in the seaway. I'm sure you have too.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
A sign of spring.
Yes, it is. And the Canadian Coast Guard leaving port and heading downriver. That's nice to see. So let's hope it's a good year. Any questions anymore on port? No? Okay. Marketing, building occupancy report?
Yep, that's largely unchanged for all of our facilities. In terms of prospects, the last of 3 salt contracts are on the agenda, setting us up for the next salt season and bids that are coming out soon. Our expanded US workshops May 7th. That's coming along well, doing some marketing on that. Not as strong of interest as in years past, but we'll see, we've got another month to go here. The first of the wind turbine ships is next week. Pellets will be coming in middle of next month for a July shipment. Working with a manufacturer that's expressed interest in the Ogdensburg area for space, jobs, new prospect. We'll talk about the assignment of a lease that has some ramifications for us. I referred a coal prospect, OMLC. Another one regarding training and logistics for Fort Drum that's separate from the other meeting I've set up. An additional military cargo that came from a shipping company that has an interest in exploring using us versus a traditional way of shipping these overseas. And we're working with three other companies that are looking to expand the park. A new lease here in the bridge building. That pretty well covers it.
It does appear that we lose one or two tenants out of the industrial park, last month, or the month before that. At one time, we had 19,000, 20,000 feet available, now there's 35, almost 36. Is that general market conditions that are driving that, or something else going on?
The one company that moved out was an acquisition. So, the second one never actually materialized due to complications with permits. We did lose one company, which I'm working on another. It's an existing tenant that may take the space, and that was due to a variety of factors, including competition and another tenant that's expanding into their area that held everything up and then continues to hold things up. So it was kind of a unique situation. I would say overall, the level of interest is not as strong as it used to be. I'm not sure why. I think it has to do with the economies of both countries and trade wars and border crossing difficulties and tariffs, and I mean that's my
Pretty much everything out of our control.
yeah. I remember 2004, 6. That was then the financial crisis, which we've recovered from, but not fully. But I remember times when people were knocking on your door looking for space, and we were 100% full. I think we're very fortunate that we're 80% full. Probably envious. You go up to Ottawa. Ottawa is improving, but some of those areas up in even like high-end Canada, you can drive by and there's full lease signs on, a lot of the buildings. So I think, that's improving up there, but not the way it used to be.
When I went to the hockey game, I did see them, and I was surprised along 417. So I thought those buildings last year had been full. Interesting.
Yeah,
So you're right, we're lucky to be at 80% there.
And I think that'll, I've got some good companies and I'm looking at, there's opportunities there, it doesn't take much to fill that. So.
Anybody else have anything for John? Okay, and you just gave us additional information, John, for Board B, thank you.
Yeah.
Any unfinished business? None? Business items?
Yeah, there are several today. The first is agenda item A1. This is approval of appointment of a sustainability and green procurement coordinator. Executive board order 4 requires it. We've had some turnover in the accounting department and need to reestablish the the sustainability and green procurement coordinator.
And for Rhea, we've talked about this before, and you're willing to do that, correct?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? And Rhea, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitney?
Yes.
Mr. Adriano?
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you.
Item A2 is in process and not ready at this time.
Just to comment on that, I think it's pretty well done. I received the final draft today at 1 o'clock. As far as I'm concerned, it's now acceptable to me to pass on.
So it is acceptable?
Yes. I successfully negotiated out a number of requirements over, a very difficult process, and they've come around and put some common sense back into their lease requirements. So, things like Energy Star and seismic retrofitting the building, I was able to document that it met certain standards 20 years ago. They're gonna consider it basically grandfathered. Tenant improvement allowance that was in there that was gonna take money from us that has been removed. Found the document that proves that the OBPA does own the building. Frank got a hold of it.
Good job,
It will be in the OBPA's name. It needs another look over. It's gonna be retroactive to April 1. In the meantime, we're still gonna get the higher round payment for April. I need a couple of sign-offs from our engineers and from Steve Lawrence and fire and police safety.
Good, good job.
Good progress, John.
Final review by Frank, and then it's on the next agenda.
Yep.
And once that's done, right, we need to